What's up, guys? Can you believe it's already October? This month has been absolutely insane with the headlines and all of the fear and everything that's going on. I want to bring it back down to perspective, and I'm actually going to talk to those homeowners. Homeowners, I know you're seeing a lot of stuff, loss in value, market crash, market correction, all of this stuff. I'm here to put it into perspective and help you understand what you really did lose in the recent changes in the real estate market. So stay tuned till the end and we'll come full circle and make sure that you realize that actually you still have a chance to absolutely be the champion. What's up, everybody? Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you're here, please throw me a like, comments especially. If you would like a dialed in market report of your home value and an annual review, which I'm doing for all of my clients, please comment below. I would love to get in touch with you, figure out what your address is, and really look at your individual perspective. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this market update. But as always, like, throw me a comment. If you haven't already subscribed, I'm all about bringing the most up-to-date market value and any education that goes into the real estate world, as it's ever changing and a little bit confusing. So let's dive into this market update. So as you know, this summer into the fall has been crazy. We started in June going above 6 and came back down to 5, 6, and now people are talking about 7% interest rates for the mortgage, the 30-year fixed. And that's something that, is variable, and it's absolute proof that the Fed has just kind of put uncertainty in the market. And the Fed has now come out and said, we don't really care about housing. In fact, we need a housing correction to kind of help us control these other things, inflation being the one. And so they're really dialed in on focusing on inflation. With that said, they're raising the Fed rate, which has more effect on the short-term things. So credit cards are more expensive. You're getting a little extra money when you're saving. And so they are really trying to destroy demand. Okay, they need to bring down demand so that the supply can catch up. And what happens when demand is low and supply is high? That's when the discounts come and they bring down inflation. So that's exactly what they are trying to do. And with that said, they have come out and said that housing is not one of their main focuses right now. They know that inflation has gotten out of control. It's no longer transitory. It's a serious problem. Unemployment, on the other hand, is a little bit of an underlying piece. And so they actually are moving on from unemployment because the unemployment numbers are very good for the time being. They still have that on the table because they know that will come with the rising Fed rate and all of that stuff. So they're focused on those two economic factors right now. So when this plays out in housing, higher interest rates have already curbed demand. The news of 7% possibly as an interest rate has struck fear in the market. People saying that the housing values, could go down 20, 30, whatever percent. All of these headlines that are just being thrown out there to get you to click on them and watch them. And then they say, well, we don't really know what's happening. We do know that the interest rate's super high. No one ever mentions that rent is going to go up along with those interest rates, as rent has gone up. Even in low interest rate times, rent really exploded. So no one ever mentions that, but that's what we have in place. As a result, pending home sales went down 15.4% last month and 28% year over year. This is something that, was a little bit of a shock to the system, as we were seeing everything that came on the market fly off the shelves right away. Active days on market went from 5 days to 16 days, which actually is a more normal market for us. So when you see that huge interest rate high, demand goes down, obviously the pending home sales are affected. And we saw that. The honest truth is we're still not to where we were in a normal market in 2019 when everything was great. We're still not to that point. So with that, we go to active listings. We had 10.7% more active listings than we did just a month prior. However, from last September, we had a 93% increase in active listings, and that's a huge number. But remember, we started at such a small number in September 2021. That's when demand was really taking over the supply, and supply was really low. However, 93% is a crazy increase. But the key stat, and the only stat that really matters, is we are still down 17% of active inventory from September of 2019. And so what that tells me is 20 and 21, the COVID years, we kind of had a crazy run. We had extremely too low interest rates. Demand was flowing into the market. It was affordable. People could afford those major price increases. So people were going there to get into homes, to get that shelter, to get that security. And so looking back, 20 and 21 security and our personal safety was a huge piece of all of that. Now that that's kind of taken care of, we can remove those 2 years. It's almost unfair to compare year over year from September 2021 to September 2022. As you can see, 93%, down. However, we're still 17% less than we were in September of 2019, which some would argue was kind of the last real normal month we had as the COVID, stuff started happening October, November. So with all that said, less demand will always lead to lower home prices. And until the Fed either gets what they want and gets inflation under control, and or we go into a recession, which typically would mean lower interest rates, we are going to see this kind of unsteady, unstable numbers kind of going all over the place in the real estate market. And so let's bring a little perspective to you. And I'm talking to homeowners right now because everyone talks about the first-time home buyers and opportunities. Everyone's talking about industrial investors, not being able to cash flow and all of this. But let's talk about the real people that might have been affected by this housing shift or correction. Let's talk to the homeowners. And I have to go back to when I was a high school basketball coach. I coached 5 years at a school and we lost in the Elite Eight literally 5 years in a row. It was heartbreaking, great kids, great community. And I actually moved on to a different school. We actually lost the state championship the first year. And the second year, we ended up winning the state championship. So I kind of draw on that perspective and those locker rooms, the Elite Eight locker rooms, the tight-knit bondness of that group and how devastating it was. And then compare it to the time we lost in the state championship. And in the state championship, we lost the game, and then we had to sit there and watch the other team, hold up that trophy and celebrate their success and their win. At the Elite Eight, the other team was happy, but they had to go play another game. So we didn't have to sit there and watch them hold up the state championship trophy. We couldn't touch it, we couldn't smell it, we couldn't see it at that point. And so as I look back on those locker rooms, the Elite Eight locker room was always pretty devastating. Tears, everything there, where the state championship locker room was like, okay, we know what we have to do. We have a lot of returning players. It was more workmanlike. It was like, okay, we were angry, more angry than sad, right? Because we didn't even have the opportunity to win when we lost in the Elite Eight. State championship, we had the opportunity to win, and we knew that if we just changed our perspective, played our cards right that time, we would put ourselves in that opportunity again and then learn from our mistakes from that game and absolutely ended with a state championship the next year. So let's draw this back into home ownership. So as a homeowner, we were there. We had this major equity gain. We knew that if we put our house on the market, we could probably get 25 to 30 to 50 to 100,000 more than our neighbor that just did. So we felt like we were right there. We were ready to go, but we didn't do it. Right? We knew we had to have a home. We knew we had to have shelter. And so we kind of just sat there and played our cards, right? Turns out that, okay, maybe we can't sell what we sold for, back in March of this year. Maybe we can't just, throw our house on the market and not stage it, not clean it, not do anything and still get, that equity benefit from the market and the demand pushing. So that's almost like we lost an Elite Eight, right? We knew we had the opportunity. We didn't really push it, right? We were like, okay, well, where would we go? What would we do? We're happy here. So that was unrealized gain. That money was not real. Okay, it was an opportunity, it was a possibility, but it wasn't real to us. So it was almost like that Elite Eight locker room, right? We were excited for the opportunity. We knew that if we won that Elite Eight game, we had to win in the Final Four, we had to win in the championship, but we didn't know what all that would take. And so as a homeowner right now, maybe, your house in September 2021 would have sold for, 900,000 and maybe now it's 850 and you're like, well, that's a lot of money and that, but it's not real money. It's not like the trophy was sitting there and we just decided we're not going to do it. And so we didn't we didn't play our cards right and make that happen. So as we look back on the basketball analogy, we're not at that state championship level. We're not at that devastating feeling of watching someone else realize their gain and, live this great life, because that person that sold their house at that high gain also had to buy in that market. So maybe that wasn't even a championship win. So as homeowners, we lost in the lead eight. We didn't seize that opportunity. We didn't turn that equity into liquid funds. But what we do have is still have our house. We still have, most of the equity that we did gain over the last 2 years, record breaking, crazy, right? We just gave some of that back, and that's okay. And we didn't give it back permanently, right? We still have other seasons to play because we still have our asset. We still have our house. And so as we look forward, as I always say, okay, we see pending home sales coming down. We see active listings going up. All of this leads to less demand because the news cycles catch it and, frame it how they want. And we have to get in front of that as realtors, and that's what I'm trying to do here. But what this is going to do is pen up demand. What happened the last time we had pent up demand? COVID, right? It took us literally 18 months or 2 years to get out of that COVID demand. Do you think it's anything crazy that we had COVID, some 3 months, some 6 months, so say March of 2020, by September of 2020, we were ready to go. We were getting back out there. Some people were a little cautious, so by September 2021, as you see, the demand was crazy. Nothing was staying on the market. We had no active listings. Pending home sales were way up. And so that's when it caught up. And once we passed September 2021, then comes March, which is 6 months later, 2 years after COVID started. And that's when we really kind of hit a stop sign. We fulfilled that pent-up demand. But in that 18 months, there was so much equity gain for homeowners that, we're still benefiting from that. Even though we can't sell for max dollar at this point, we still benefit greatly from probably 75 to 80% of that gain. And so, as I say, when the market does change, buyers are the first to know, agents are the second to know, sellers are the third to know. So the buyers are pent up, ready to go, almost like bulls in the ring, right? Or chickens in a chicken coop. Once you open that gate, boom, they're gone. Okay. And so the buyers are going to be ready to roll when that interest rate does dip or when, we get a little inventory. But the problem is that when that inventory is available is going to be a factor because the sellers are the third to know. So the sellers will then have to make the decision that, okay, this is my chance. This is my chance to compete. This is my chance to get top dollar. They have to get their home ready. They put it on the market. That could be 2, 3, 5, 6 months. And by that time, all the demand spurred up, there's limited inventory, and at your prices will come right back to where they were, if not exceed. So the moral of the story is be patient, play your cards right, realize that the difference between cash in your bank account and unrealized gain in equity, and understand that you've had a pretty good 5 years. So that's the October market update. Homeowners, I feel for you. If you need anything, please reach out. I would love to sit down and do a review with you of your home. If you are in a different state, because I know a lot of people watch these from different states, please reach out. I will find you a connection. As always, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.